Good morning, it's Rebecca from Rebecca Ink. Today we are going to draw a snail. So grab your piece of paper, a pencil, a marker, and an eraser, or the back of your pencil eraser will be fine too. And we'll get started. I'm going to move my guide. We are going to start, we're going to do 2 circles to start with. I'm going to use my marker. You use a pencil. My marker looks really tiny. You use a pencil. I'm going to use a marker so you can see me a little bit better. And we're going to start with a circle right about here on the left-hand side of our paper. To get this shape, you're going to go around and around and around and around. So get your arm going from your shoulder. And when you get that shape, set your pencil down. Keep going around and around and around. Now on this one, because the shell of our snail has a spiral inside of it, let's go around one more time, and when we get up toward the top, cut in and just draw a little spiral right there. So we'll go around one more time, cut in, and let your hand just keep going and get smaller and smaller. Next up, we are going to draw another circle. It's going to kind of be combined with this circle. So it's going to be a little bit larger. We're going to go down and around and come out a little bit bigger on this side. So go ahead, start along that left-hand edge, go around, make it a little bit bigger. Now, if you're concerned about all these lines that we're putting down, please don't be. These are going to be just our guides, and in the long run, we will erase all of this when we go over it with our marker. So be light and loose and let it happen, and I promise in the end it'll be cool. All right, next up we are going to go from this outside circle. We're going to create an arc going into that first circle. So you're going to plant your wrist. You can rotate your paper, but I think your wrist wants to be kind of this angle, and you're just going to move your hand back and forth in that natural motion that it's going to go in. And then just up from that, do another little one. Like a little mimicking one, just like that. Very good. Where those meet up along the outside of that circle, just kind of connect them with a little arc. All right, next up, the body of our snail. It's going to be an oval right about here. It's going to kind of overlap into that circle that we just drew. So get your arm going. It's again a big enough shape where we can get our whole arm going from our shoulder. Sometimes it takes a few rounds to get your hand warmed up to do that shape. So go around a few times. Off the top of that, we're going to draw a diagonal line coming down, just like that. So not too far down. Now from the tip of that diagonal line, we're going to draw an arc that goes all the way back to our circle, the small circle, the little circle, okay? So all the way from here to there. And how you get that nice arc, again, put your hand about this position, plant your wrist, and your hand will naturally move in that direction. It's going to go work with your body. All right, next up, the top of our snail. He's got those cute little antlers. We're going to draw a little circle here and a little circle here. These shapes are smaller, so same idea. You're going to plant your wrist and kind of air draw it with your fingers. Go round and round and round. When you feel like you have the shape, set your pencil down nice and light. Now from the left-hand side of that circle, we're going to draw an arced line coming up. So again, planting your wrist, let it go in that natural motion. And then from the other side, same thing, going up, and it gets smaller as it goes up toward the top. At the very tippy top, we're going to draw a little circle. Round and round you go. All right, same thing, just down from there, little circle. And off of the top part this time, because it's going to come out this direction, we're going to plant our wrist and do a nice little arc. And then off the bottom of that circle, plant your wrist, head toward the other arc. So it gets skinnier as it goes up, and draw a nice little circle at the end. Okay, now for some details. Our snail, this part here is the body of our snail. And on their underbelly here, they've got this muscle that if they're still, it kind of looks like they've got some N shapes or upside down U shapes that go along that edge. So we're going to draw some of those. We're just going to go up and back, up and back, up and back. When we get up here where we've got our oval, we're just going to make those a little bit smaller. Up and back. They're kind of like an upside down U. If it helps you to rotate your paper and draw a U, you could do that. It's also like the letter N, but without that beginning line there. Okay, now to give ourselves some guides for some shadowing, some shading, we are going to do a little arced line from the edge of this section where we cut in. From here, we're going to do a little arced line back to that smaller circle. Get rid of some of my lines so you can see it. Little arced line there. And then off of the edge of that, we're going to do a little arced line the other direction. And now I think we're ready to switch over to our marker. Believe it or not, snails don't have a lot of shapes, so we are ready. So set down your pencil and grab your marker. All right, so I'm sure you've assumed this is the shell and this is the body of our snail. So let's start on that shell. We're going to draw around that larger circle, right where you drew those two lines that cut across in that little arc to connect them. From there, we're going to go up and around the outside part of that circle. And when we get over here, we're going to ditch that large circle and go on to the smaller one. So let's start right here. If it helps you to rotate your paper, please do that. You're just tracing over the lines that you've already drawn. When you've got a lot of lines, like I have a lot of lines over here, I'm just simply picking my favorite one or kind of parking my marker in the middle of all those lines and just go around. Okay, from here, we're going to hop onto that spiral. So we're going to go around this part and then down into our spiral all the way around. Now, if I were drawing this without a camera above me, I would probably rotate my paper to help me get these shapes. You can go slow, you can go fast, it doesn't really matter. I had some areas here where my marker caught. It's okay, I just went around it a few more times. Okay, now let's go back. Where we cut over, we're going to draw that line. Just like that. Go over that one twice. Make it a little bit thicker because that's the start of our shadow. And then that little arc to connect those lines. Now draw that little mimicking line. Just like that. Very good. Now, if you're looking at these snails, I encourage you, Google them. They've got all kinds of beautiful designs on these shells. So you can fill in some cool designs if you want to. But for now, let's just give it a little depth. The base part of this oval, so it would just be like the bottom, this line, and then going up to the middle. We're just going to go over those, give them a little extra edge like we did on this arc. So go ahead and draw over those one more time, make it a little bit thicker. You can rotate your paper like I mentioned. And to trace over those and make it nice and simple, I'm just planting my wrist and following that natural curve. And then where my marker sticks out, I'm just kind of angling it back in. Trying to smooth it out there. You can just keep going up as far as it takes to smooth out your line. All right, next one. If at any point I'm doing this faster than you are, feel free to pause me. I'll be right here and draw your line a little thicker. Hit play when you're done. All right, now we are on to the body. So we are going to ignore that larger section of that circle and we're going to go into the body right here. So we're going to trace along that bottom arc over to where it connects up to the head. Draw right up to the head, up to that little antler. Now let's do the antlers. I'm going to start at the back one here. We're going to go down around the bottom edge of that circle and up that back side, and then around the edge of the top circle, and then right back down, cutting into the head just a little bit. Now let's draw that little arc between our two little antlers. Same thing on this guy. We're going to go just a little bit of hint around that circle at the base, all the way up to the little circle at the top, all the way around, and then back down. Now on this side, because the shadow is going to be on the bottom side, I'm going to cut into that circle again. Let's connect back to our shell. All right, so now you can see this is the body of our snail. Now to add in some shading and some detail, where we drew that arc back here, we're just going to go ahead, connect that, fill that in nice and dark with your marker. There's no right or wrong way to do that. You can do it quickly or you can take your time, either way. Then where we drew that little arc going the other direction off of that, we're going to fill that in too. So our shell is sticking out and creating a shadow over the body of our snail. Now we're going to use some pointillism, just simply little dots, to give us some more shadowing. So along that edge of that shadow we just created, let's soften it a bit by just giving a couple little taps of dots, pointillism, following along that shape all the way up and down. Now when we get to the top of the head, we're going to do a little bit of that along the edge there, and then also along the edge of this antler. I'm not sure if that's what they're called, but we're going to call it that. Antenna, maybe it's an antenna. All right, then we're going to do a little bit of that around the edge of the face there, in between those two. Down around, little shading here, and then on this part, there's a muscle there. So if you wanted to give it a more solid line, you could draw along this with a nice solid line, or you can just do your little dots closer together, about to there, and then further apart as you go along. Go over that a few times, add in more dots. Now if you space your dots a little bit further apart as you go up the body, as you add in a few layers of those, it creates some shadows and some shading. Now we're going to do that same thing, that same little arc, but we're going to go some dots from here over to this antenna here. So just some dots, maybe like 4 or 5 wide, off of that back shadow, kind of headed toward that antenna, just like this. They get a little skinnier as they go along. I'm going to add in a few more just to soften it. If you want your dots to be smaller, you can hold your pen a little bit more upright, hold your marker a little bit more upright, and touch quicker. Do faster little dots. The longer you hold your marker to your paper, the more ink is going to soak into the paper. All right, now back here where we've got our body, we're going to follow along this circle back to that shadow and then just kind of fill in a little bit along that edge. So a little spread out dots along that oval, that body oval. And now we're just going to fill in like a little triangle of them to connect it back to that shadow from the shell. Just kind of softens it. Their body is very, I don't know what you would use to describe it. It's very bendy. All right, now where we drew our little ends, we're just going to add some cute little dots to go over those. Just kind of a little bit bolder, and I'm just spacing them ever so far apart and going around that shape. That's really more decorative. If you look at them and study them a bit, you'll see they all have just slightly different patterns. It would almost be like comparing the wrinkles on your hand to the wrinkles on somebody else's hand. Like where your joints meet up, their patterns are probably very unique to them. Okay, so that is a snail. We are ready to erase. I'm going to switch back to my guide and erase right along with you. With your non-drawing hand, steady your paper and just start erasing. Now I like to use a white eraser. You can use any kind of eraser that you have on hand. These just happen to be my favorite. And where I've got some darker lines, I am taking my time and going over those a few more times. If you need to, you can take a second, brush away your eraser dust, and then continue. See what you have left. Please send me your drawings. I'm excited to see your snails, and if you want to, you could take some time and add in some fun designs. I had one mom tell me the other day that she does the drawings and then her kids color them in. So you could make it a project for more than one person. Oh, on my guide, I created a leaf shape. You can do that with just like a simple little arc and a simple little arc if you wanted to add that in. Send me your drawings. I will have them on my website, RebeccaInc.com. On the Interact tab, you can see what everybody's drawing. You can find Rebecca Inc. on Facebook, on Instagram, and on YouTube if you don't have Facebook. I post these tutorials on YouTube as well. And my Instagram is @RebeccaIncABink. Send me your drawings. Send me your drawings. Tell me what you want to draw, and stay healthy, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.